Eve and her children, Izzy and Josh, are snarled up in traffic on a typical day in Los Angeles. They are having a good talk when an odd incident occurs close. From where Eve is sitting, she can see that several cars are sinking into the ground. They quickly become aware that a sinkhole is emerging as the ground underneath them cracks. The Fishers almost catch up with the family when they attempt to flee. After stopping to assist a young girl, Josh finds it difficult to keep up with his family. Eventually, his mother follows him into the hole. Eve tells her daughter that she loves her just before she falls. We can see a huge hole in the midst of the city from above. A state of emergency is proclaimed as the populace spirals out of control. Gavin, Eve's husband, is meeting with his employer somewhere else. He was a former military pilot who was fired after an accident. He experienced mental trauma as a result, which resulted in hallucinations and manic episodes. When Gavin hears about the sinkhole, he immediately rushes there to look for his family. Izzy cries in his arms and gives him a hug after finally recognizing him. When Gavin learns that his wife and kid have passed away, his heart sinks. A swarm of odd birds suddenly emerges from the sinkhole and caws at the gathering before soaring away. The next scene shows Eve waking up in a field. She turns around, confused, and sees a green light in the sky. She is close to a stone that has the print of a bloody hand. She then begins seeking for Josh after recalling the flashes of him sliding into the abyss. She crosses a meadow and enters the woods, where she encounters a man who is equally perplexed as she is. They both detect smoke billowing in the area and rush to investigate. They were shocked to find that every person and car that had fallen down the sinkhole had arrived here. The other survivors and Eve meet up again. They quickly learn that they dropped from the green sky ripple, but none knows how to go back up. Dr. Sam, the group's leader, instructs everyone to take advantage of the circumstances by gathering food and water. Everyone contributes to the group, with the exception of Mary Beth, a policewoman who tries to conceal a box of protein bars. She asserts that they cannot remain as a community when difficult times strike when Josh calls her out on it. A wolf suddenly appears in their line of sight and charges at them. The survivors are quickly overtaken by the animal and its pack, which causes mayhem. Eve is trapped between two wolves while everyone else gets into the nearest cars. Ty kills the animal with a shotgun, saving her life. However, Josh is also wounded seriously by the gunshot as well. Sam makes every effort to preserve his life while he is being transported inside a bus. Later, he and Eve left to search for an ambulance that had earlier also fallen into the pit. Riley, Sam's daughter, looks after Josh while they are gone. Dr. Sophia, the Department of Homeland Security's chief scientist, is making a public announcement back in Los Angeles. She asserts that there is no chance for anyone who fell into the hole to survive, but they are making every effort to find their bodies. Gavin experiences a bizarre vision where he sees Eve close to the rock with the handprint after hearing her speech. He explains to Izzy that he has been experiencing these images ever since his accident, but all he has ever seen are barren meadows and pastures. Because he sees his family in the same location that has plagued him for so long, this vision is unusual. Sophia's team sends a drone into the sinkhole in the meanwhile, but as it approaches the green light, it stops transmitting signals. Gavin experiences another vision outside and this time sees the downed drone. He tries to explain his visions to Sophia, but she ignores him because he is simply another grieving family member. Izzy shares her opinion in addition to her own. Gavin is aware that his assertions seem absurd, but he would stop at nothing to save his wife and son if there is even a remote chance that they are still alive. He remembers seeing the stone with the print in person, so he dashes home and searches through the vacation photos he and Eve shot. He discovers the photograph and learns the location of the stone, much to his astonishment. When Eve and Sam discover Ty poised to execute the terrible act, they are somewhere else still searching for the ambulance. Eve intervenes, saying that despite his experiences, he deserves to live. Ty joins them in the search because when he initially touched down, he noticed the ambulance. Gavin locates the rock in LA and begins exploring the area around it in search of additional hints. Until he discovers Eve's old neck ring on the ground, Izzy believes his father has gone nuts. The ambulance is then discovered by Eve and the others in a deserted field. She observes the hill in front of them as well as the Hollywood Hills sign on the car. The two appear to be identical, indicating that they are both present in LA but from a time when humans have not yet discovered it. They are suddenly ambushed by a tiger who pushes them off the path. Sam tumbles down a hill, but the other two are pursuing the beast of an animal and are unable to check for him. Before the tiger enters a trap, they are once mere seconds away from being attacked. They are not the only ones in this place because it is obvious that a man constructed it. They search for Sam for a few hours before discovering him at the foot of the slope. He has a back injury but is still alert. They need to return to the camp right away because Josh's wound has already become infected. Sam begs the others to go to Josh first when he realizes he is holding up the group. Eve goes back to the camp alone, leaving Ty to take care of the man. In the meantime, Mary Beth discovers a car with drugs in the trunk and appears to recognize the owner. She begins inquiring about a man wearing a green jacket. While there, she encounters Veronica and Lily, Veronica's sister who is deaf. In the attack yesterday, Veronica's father passed away, and the animals dragged his body away. She sends Mary Beth to watch over her sister as she and a man named Scott enter the woods to search for their father. While on the journey, Scott learns that Veronica is deeply devout and believes that God will assist them if they get lost. As soon as Eve gets there, she administers an antibiotic to her son. Additionally, his wound is stitched, and his temperature begins to normalize. Gavin sees a doctor discussing the sinkhole on television in the interim. Gavin chooses to speak with the doctor to request assistance since Sophie didn't take him seriously. The doctor initially expresses skepticism but eventually agrees to carbon date the ring Gavin discovered. Gavin's scheme is discovered by Sophie somewhere else, who then summons him to the base. The same day and location as Gavin's accident occurred 3 years ago, a comparable sinkhole opened in the desert. When the carbon dating results are revealed, the ring is estimated to date back to 10,000 BC. Given all the facts, Sophie decides to trust Gavin and begins formulating a rescue strategy. She shows him the unique aircraft they created to drop into the sinkhole. Although Gavin will not be permitted to operate it, his close friend Levi is selected for the position. Veronica and Scott come upon a herd of camels that are preparing to enter a tar hole in 10,000 BC. They are stopped and killed by Scott. At the same time, they saw the body of Veronica's father lying in the center of a stone palm sign. Sam and Ty encounter Lucas in the woods. When they arrive at the camp, we learn that Lucas is a drug dealer and is Mary Beth's son. Although they don't get along, Mary Beth is protective of him. Sam and his back injuries are cared for by Riley and Scott. As anesthetics, they employ the narcotics they discovered in one of the automobiles. They are in the year 10,000 BC, Scott informs everyone when he comes back. He has a PhD degree in anthropology and is aware that 8 camel carcasses were rescued from tar pits a month ago. The 8 camels he earlier saved were still there. Lucas rejects his claims and embarks on a search for relief on his own. He leads Mary Beth after him until they arrive at a trap that was unquestionably set by a person. Eve and Ty leave to look for food at the same time, but while they are out hunting, they stumble upon a bear. Their lives is saved when they are chased into a cave. They are trapped inside the cave because stones have blocked the entrance. Suddenly, Lucas and Mary Beth, who had entered the cave in search of the native person, arrive behind them. After some exploration, they locate a body of water. Ty enters to look for a way out but discovers a greater surprise. Everyone follows him into the water, emerging to see a dead body that has been there for a while. The man lived alone and was obviously from the future, just like them. He used a gun that was lying on the side to do the unspeakable. To avoid crushing the spirit of the remaining survivors, the group resolves to keep this a secret from them. Outside, they also discover edible mushrooms. They return to the camp with enough food for everyone by the end of the day. Ty tells Eve that he has a brain tumor and won't live for very long while still loving them. Although he had given up, the sinkhole has given him newfound hope. Later, while Levi prepares for the mission, Gavin and Levi talk about it. He confesses to having an affair with Eve years ago before leaving, and the two part ways amicably. As the mission control holds its breath, the flight takes off. But they lose contact before they get to the green light, and the jet crashes in the past. Gavin and Izzy embrace one another, assuming they have also lost Levi. Riley thanks Scott in the camp for using the medications discovered in the car to assist her father earlier. Before admitting that he doesn't know where in the forest he buried them, Scott accepts the compliment. The aircraft carrying Levi suddenly increases in size as the green light and penetrates the atmosphere. Lucas, Eve, Josh, Scott, and Riley left early in the morning to search for the plane. Finally, they come across Levi. Before informing them of his goal, he reunites with Eve. The group is grateful that their loved ones are helping them. The gang then searches for the crashed aircraft in case it's still alive and well. After a short distance of walking, they arrive at the accident scene where they discover the plane's radio and engine compressor damaged. Levi might be able to fix it if they can find the correct components, but it seems impossible to get the parts in this day and age. Instead, they decide to return to the camp and get the food items he provided. To their surprise, the plane picks up a signal from the trees 3 miles distant. They choose to follow it because it might be the only option for them to escape. In the meantime, Veronica is pressuring Lily in the camp to avoid speaking to anyone. She runs to the woods out of frustration and finds something terrible. Later, when everyone has gathered together, they find the body of a man who was once one of them. Lily is aware of what transpired with him, but Veronica forbids her from discussing it. Ty, a psychiatrist by profession, makes it his goal to assist the little child. Back in the present, an earthquake strikes Los Angeles. Levi's plane accident is cited as the cause despite the fact that it doesn't inflict much harm. Any future rescue efforts are thus put on hold. When Gavin goes to Sophia's office to exact revenge, he discovers that she is on vacation. Instead, he discovers a photo of her with Rebecca, another participant in the second Sinkhole investigation program. He researches her address online because he believes she will know the answers to his queries. He then drives with Izzy to meet Rebecca. When they get to Rebecca's house the next morning, they discover Sophie with her. They disclose that when the last sinkhole in the desert first emerged, a team of experts was dispatched inside to investigate it. They spent the last 3 years stranded in 10,000 BC because the Green Rift closed before they could escape. Although the High Command is against it, Sophie and Rebecca are enthusiastic about carrying out the rescue attempt because the imprisoned group included friends and family of theirs. They can enter the sinkhole once more with the aid of Rebecca's stealthy airplane that she created. It has changes that won't also create an earthquake. Gavin will have to operate it, though, and they will have to launch it covertly. Ty asks Lily questions about what she witnessed the day before and then seats her down in the camp. Lily disproves Veronica's claim that she is mute by revealing that she saw an elderly guy where the body was discovered. The aforementioned old man is watching them from the woods as she tells them this. Lucas learns that Scott hid his drug stash somewhere else and starts to follow him around because the narcotics were highly valuable. They soon arrive at what appears to be a fort that was undoubtedly constructed by a civilization. Scott believes it to be an ancient indigenous civilization. The location where the signal originates is also the place. They go inside the fort and divide into pairs to search for the source. Josh and Riley eventually find themselves in a room that has a hidden door that exits the fort. Eve and Levi visit a mysterious building where a body is found inside a stone-made palm-shaped mark. Levi reveals that the deceased man was one of the scientists who went missing 3 years ago and that finding them was also part of his duty. Scott and Lucas argue at the same time after Lucas learns that Scott misplaced his stash. They are suddenly accosted by a fort resident, who knocks them both out. Outside, Riley and Josh are also seen and pursued into the hills. They manage to survive by taking cover between the rocks. Then, Levi and Eve are pursued by the locals. They stumble into a room of kids while attempting to flee. When the guards arrive hunting for the trespassers, one small man tells them to conceal and sends them on their way. Scott and Lucas awaken next to the earlier deceased person. They hurry outside after using a lighter to release their hands. By this time, Josh and Riley have also come back to collect the other survivors. With the aid of a child, they band together out of the native site. Despite the fact that his grandfather is the tribe's chief, he shows them the path out. Before anyone has a chance to flee, they are discovered and about to be slaughtered when a woman intervenes. The party eventually makes it out and returns to the camp. Scott is in disbelief because he overheard the tribe speaking English decades after the tribe was supposed to have no contact with Europeans. The next scene shows Levi and the group arriving at the camp and telling everyone what occurred. Ty approaches Lily after dark after noticing she is alone and sitting down. Before he asks her if she is hiding anything, he first earns her trust. Veronica is not Lily's sister, Lily admits. She was taken by Veronica and her father a year ago, and she has been with them ever since. Ty is astounded by the information. She realizes that he knows the truth when Veronica shows up with dinner and flees. The survivors of the sinkhole are said to have ended up in an ancient society, which Rebecca takes Gavin to in the future. This is demonstrated when they unearth a letter from Eve written long ago in which she apologizes to Gavin for not trusting his hallucinations. Gavin is also instructed to fly the plane into the sinkhole today in order to prevent it from closing the following evening and trapping the others in the past. Even though there's a potential he won't come back, Izzy lets him go.